What we've really focused on doing is anybody you stake the tokens and you get to become a reporter.
We wanted the token, the incentive token, to be native to Pulse Chain. We didn't want to introduce a bridged-in token. And as a consequence of that, we felt that developing something for Pulse Chain to support its community was important.
Unless you buy up like all of the tokens, ultimately the community within the Oracle decides what is a good or bad value.
Hi folks, really happy to announce, really excited to announce that we're actually just about to launch a Oracle service natively on Pulse Chain. I'm actually joined today by the founder and CTO of Tellor, Nick Fett. Welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, great to be here.
So Nick, I think, one of the reasons that we sort of looked at Tellor initially is obviously you guys have been around since what, 2019?
Yeah, it's been a long time now.
Yeah. So from our point of view, like the fact that you've been around, we also know that you guys were part of the Liquidity launch, and obviously Liquidity does use Tellor as a backup Oracle. What we particularly liked about the Oracle service when we looked into Tellor, and we obviously had a look at Chainlink and a number of others, was the fact that you guys were truly decentralized, or you had embraced that more than others. And I think there are certain aspects about that really was quite appealing to us. The fact that we're also looking to launch something natively on Pulse Chain was really important. And I think fundamentally, the other thing that we liked is, I think I've got this right, but Chainlink doesn't necessarily, certainly it didn't appear at the time to be penalizing anyone for providing incorrect feeds, and their governance didn't seem to be anywhere near as strong. And this isn't about necessarily beating them up at all, but it was just one of the things that stood out for me was the fact that, hey, if you get nefarious actors providing incorrect feeds, then there was an opportunity to slash any tokens that they'd put up as part of that process. So that was appealing to us. And look, I guess fundamentally, one of the things that we decided early, when we had those conversations with you, was that, hey, if we can develop something natively on Pulse Chain that is truly decentralized, that is very much in line with Richard's ethos around being truly decentralized, it certainly is very consistent with the narratives and the support that we're providing to the community through liquid loans. I think that was really important for us. And the other thing that we didn't necessarily want to do, because I think we've seen this deployed elsewhere, obviously, we wanted the token, the incentive token, to be native to Pulse Chain. We didn't want to introduce a bridged-in token. And as a consequence of that, we felt that developing something for Pulse Chain to support its community was important. I guess from that perspective, Nick, a question I wanted to ask you is that what people may not realize is what's the importance of having an Oracle service on a layer one?
Sure. I mean, Oracle services are critically important. I guess I can start off, like we were, for those that may not know, like what is an Oracle service? And the best example was we were actually, like, before I launched Tellor back in 2019, we were trying to build a derivatives protocol similar to liquid loans, and where you're betting on the price of Bitcoin. This was novel stuff back in 2017, where you would lock assets and you would say, like, if the price of Bitcoin goes up, somebody makes money. If the price of Bitcoin goes down, somebody loses money. The problem is, how do you know what the price of Bitcoin is?
Yeah.
See, blockchains, Ethereum, Pulse Chain, they actually can't read external data. So they don't know what the Coinbase API is. They don't know what the weather is. If you want a random number, you don't know what it is. So you need what's called an oracle to bring it on chain. And when we were there in 2017 trying to build this, there were no decentralized oracles. We were in this for the same reason that you guys were. We're trying to overthrow the traditional finance system. We want these things to function, and they're going to run for eternity, even if all of the team goes down. Like, you need that to happen to be decentralized, and nothing was even close. I mean, the Oracle services back then were, there was one guy running a server in his basement, and that was the Oracle service. So we came and we said, how can we actually build a decentralized Oracle? And that's what we made Tellor into. We launched it, and we've kind of been iterating on it, trying to figure out how best to do it. And we're at a great version now. And it's awesome that, we can see it kind of come to life over on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, it's interesting, Nick, because obviously you guys have continued to evolve. And one of the things that has caught my attention as well is that you're constantly looking to remove or actually improve the version of decentralization that you have. So removing some of the elements that you may have started with at the beginning and then sort of evolving to a much more decentralized model, which I think is really helpful. One of the things that we've sort of discussed as we were looking at how the hell do we engage with the community, we kind of know that in principle, the way the system effectively works is that someone has to provide a price feed to the Oracle service. And there is a process, and we don't have to go into that process in detail, but it is important that the community are aware that this is a community protocol, which means that if you want to participate and provide prices through to the Oracle service, you can spin up a reporter. And a reporter is just effectively a node that provides a price feed through to the Oracle itself. I guess one of the other reasons that we felt that the Oracle and the need for decentralization was important is that we have heard of, there's been some discussions around, well, why don't you just use a DEX? And I think there's some real valid reasons not to go down that path, but I'd certainly like to get your perspective on why is using an Oracle service superior to using a DEX, for example?
Sure. So I think there's kind of two pieces to the question there. The easy one on like why not to use a DEX. This is so DEXs are just sort of they're these exchanges, and there's classic even in traditional finance. There's how to manipulate centralized exchanges to throw prices on futures and options contracts on everything, and there's just well documented history there. It's usually a really bad idea to base a price on one of these things unless you have a regulatory agency ready to crack down on these bad actors. The classic loan or the classic example with a DEX is flash loans. So you can borrow a whole bunch of one asset and just completely throw the price, all very, very quickly, and then you can manipulate something. So you could manipulate liquid loans, and that would be really, really bad. But back to the other thing on it being a community thing. This is like, if you look at any decentralized protocol, a lot of times you hear that it's about the math or it's about the underlying code, but really, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Hex or Pulse Chain, it's the community that ultimately decides what's going on. And this is the same with an Oracle system. You want to give as much of the control over to the community, and really it's how can you do that? And that's how you give control to the community, is how you decentralize something. Yeah. So what we've really focused on doing is anybody you stake the tokens and you get to become a reporter. And that's what we're looking for community members to do, is we want you to become a reporter. And then whenever the system comes, it'll ask you, you'll be running some software. It'll ask you, okay, what's the price of Pulse token? What's the price of Bitcoin? You could be a bridge. It could ask you, what's a random number? What's the value of this contract call on Ethereum? And your node will go and fetch it and put it on chain. And then that's basically, you're basically a node for the Oracle. And that's how it's this community process.
Yeah. So Nick, just on that, I mean, obviously you've gone through a whole bunch of tests to sort of ensure that price feeds are accurate. The method that you use for reporters, if somebody's wanting to do something nefarious, what's the mechanism that the Oracle service uses to sort of stamp those guys out?
So you really want to make it something that's crypto economically secure, meaning that you want it to be against their best financial interest to put a bad value on chain. So if somebody they stake the tokens and they become a reporter and they're like, we're going to put a bad value on chain, they'll put a bad value on chain. Everyone else out there is monitoring the network. They pay a small fee and they say, hey, he lied. He said that the price of Bitcoin was $500 million. It is clearly not that. Right then, though, the value will be taken off chain and it'll go into a vote of the community. So all of the holders of the token, and also weighted to the reporters themselves, they get to vote on whether or not this was a good or bad value. And this was obviously a bad value, and the reporter would be slashed and his stake would be given to that person who disputed. So the person monitoring the network has a very big financial interest in keeping it up to date. And that's why everyone's monitoring it and making sure that these bad values are taken off chain very, very quickly.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that might come up from the community, they'll say, well, okay, that may happen once, but what if we get repeat offenders, or somebody constantly wants to challenge the price? There is my understanding is that there is an increase in cost. So what if you have a nefarious actor that thinks, hey, my bag's bigger than your bag, so I'll win? How does that sort of play out in reality?
It's likely not going to work. Like
Good.
it's one of, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, even if you want to attack a proof of stake network, like, unless you buy up like all of the tokens, ultimately the community decides. The community within the Oracle decides what is a good or bad value. So in the short run, you can put on some bad ones or dispute some good ones, but in the long run, it's going to be financially very, very swayed against you to keep this attack up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and to be honest, Nick, I kind of knew a lot of that, but it's important for our community to understand that, look, there is an absolute need for the system to be completely decentralized, but more importantly, that there is a really robust way of overcoming the nefarious actor that may want to try and manipulate something to their gain and damage the community outcome. So from that point of view, we're really, really happy to work with you guys. And I should say, Nick, it's been a pleasure to work with you and your team. It's actually been outstanding. So the level of professionalism has been second to none. And we're really pleased to have worked with you guys. And look, we understand that fundamentally the Oracle service that's running is effectively underpinned by Tellor technology. So it is the Tellor system. We are renaming it. It's important that we rename, and what we've decided, Nick, for right or wrong, is that we're going with the name Fetch Oracle. So if anyone's interested, they can actually go to fetchoracle.com. There'll be enough information there. There will be an explainer video just to explain how it works and how the reporter network feeds into that and the importance of that into the overall system. I think the other thing that we sort of have started conversations with other developers on Pulse Chain, because one of the important things of having an Oracle service is obviously Liquid Loans is going to be a benefactor in that we will be using that service, but any other DeFi protocol that needs to get a solid price or a robust price for Pulse or anything else on Pulse Chain, it's really important that the Oracle service exists. And as a consequence of that, we are engaged in conversations with some of the other developers on Pulse Chain and anyone really wanting to develop a DeFi protocol where price feeds are important. We're really happy to engage with them to explain how all of this works. Nick, I appreciate your time. I know it's quite late there for you, and thank you very much for your support to date. We really are excited about this. And again, thank you very much for helping us on this journey.
No, thank you. Super excited to see it all come into play.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nick.